owns multiple businesses. He's been featured in everything, Forbes, NBC, Fox News, you name it, Men's Health, etc. But he's an incredible father in person. And Ryan became an entrepreneur at age 19, mentored by stepdad when his dad told him, hey, do it. You have nothing to lose. And I told Ryan off the camera, but this has been sitting on my desk for 2 years now, since 2018, when I was at Barnes & Noble in Garden Grove. My wife was on the first floor. I was on the third floor. I went to get a business book. I went to get something that was going to impact my life. And I saw this bright colored orange book, and I won't tell you the name of it because it's got a 4-letter word, starts with F. And I went, that's probably not going to be a good book to sit on my desk. Yeah. So I made it right, and I picked this up, and Ryan, I could not put it down. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. Welcome.
Thank you. I've written 2 books on overcoming adversity. And so it's just such a blessing to know that in 2018, you received Rockbound to Rockstar, which was published in late 2016. And my first book, Nothing to Lose, and both Rockbound to Rockstar and a documentary that I created by the name of Nothing to Lose still continue to make an impact. So it's such a privilege to be able to just be able to share and be able to help people through my experience.
Well, I tell you, you've greatly impacted my life. My wife knows this. I could not stop talking about you in the book all the way home. We live 4 hours away from that Barnes & Noble, and so she heard every minute of it.
As a writer, like the greatest compliment you can give me is that you connected to my art. And so thank you for that. That's like, you've made my day. I'm working on a 3rd book right now called Altar Call that you just inspired me to make sure that masterpiece, gets enough time and attention, because I'm here to really just to give. I'm at that level of life right now where I just want to give more every single day. So thank you for allowing me to give to you through my writing and now through this interview.
Oh, man. Well, people like me deeply appreciate it. Well, I tell you what, Ryan, let's get right into it. I tell you, with the current situation, people staying at home, I'm hearing a lot more noise now. People saying, hey, you know what? I'm giving some serious thought about being an entrepreneur. What are some non-negotiable skills that a person must have to be successful?
As an entrepreneur, so for one, think about entrepreneurship like this. So there's this massive system that teaches you not to be an entrepreneur, teaches you to get a job, go to school, leverage yourself into a mortgage, into car payments, into credit card debt, into materialism. It teaches you to be confined by this system. And then you have to have a job to be able to participate in the system. And when you don't have a job, like the millions upon millions, tens of millions of people don't anymore, you are now under stress. Your life is in big trouble because you've been taught this system of having a job. Now, this whole idea of having a job, right? That's a level that we participate within our society. But then there's another level above that, which is to be an entrepreneur, meaning to create jobs for people. And so to become an entrepreneur, you have to elevate outside of the thinking of trading your time for money. You have to elevate outside of the thinking of having a job for security. You have to elevate outside the thinking of having somebody else take care of me and mitigate the risk in my life so that I can retire or live a life of fulfillment. And you have to actually, figure out the skills necessary to create your own job first and foremost. And then eventually you figure out the skills necessary to help create other jobs in your organization. And when you do that, you then become an entrepreneur and you're at the level above having a job. So, I think a lot about this because I started out in my career first I was working for a company that was in the software engineering space. And I worked my way up from a call center representative all the way into a vice president of engineering. And at a young age, I made over $100,000 a year at like 19, 20 years old because my skills were in so demand. But I saw the way the entrepreneurs ran the business. And I thought to myself, I want their job. I don't want this job that I have. I want the job of, creating the product, selling the product, maintaining the operation. And so I dreamed about becoming an entrepreneur. And that was how I made the leap from having a job, a very, successful job, to then becoming an entrepreneur. And there's been times where I've questioned that leap. It's paid off for me, right? There's been times where I was like, did I make a mistake? Should I have gone back to college? Should I have gone back to corporate America? But now, I'm 42 years old and I've been an entrepreneur now since I was 19 or 20. Actually, yeah, I think I started at 20. So now that I've been an entrepreneur now for 22 years, I can tell you that it's a whole different level of freedom. And I'm so blessed that I have these skills and these talents that I've built over the past 22 years, because I'm not really worried about the unemployment line like so many people are these days.
Definitely. I tell you, Ryan, you inspired me because I was a wannabe entrepreneur from age 38 to about 48. And then age 48 is when I started making that transition to become a full-time entrepreneur. And you were right on the cusp of that, of helping me and encouraging me. So I really appreciate that. But that leads me to the next question is, I mean, I've heard and read, you've said this many times, that it's important to surround yourself with great people to mitigate your weaknesses. But how can a new entrepreneur do this effectively, and why is it vital to their success?
Well, it's a great question. So, the thing that made me successful was I had a massive desire to learn and to receive. So I would, I so wanted to learn what I knew I was missing something, because I could see that a person had more success than I had, or they had a better business than I had, or they had a bigger business, or whatever it was that I was measuring by. And so I had this massive desire to receive the information necessary for me to be able to have the life that I saw other people having. And so the first and foremost that you have to really come to is a desire to learn. From that desire to learn, if you really have a massive desire to learn, you're going to seek out mentors. You're going to seek out people to teach you. Some of those teachers, those people that you'll learn from, will appear. They'll appear serendipitously. You'll so desire to learn something about finance, and next thing you know, you're talking to a person who's an expert in finance. Or you'll so desire to learn something about sales, next thing you know, you're at Barnes and Nobles and you're scanning the book aisle because you had a desire to learn, right? Yeah, right. That's how it works. Right. You had the desire seated in you. You could have hung out with your wife and you could have done all kinds of things, but you moved to the third floor business section, which not very many people are up there. And you scan the aisles, and a book spoke to you, and a mentor was given to you. And I'm a very spiritual person, and so the first level of mentorship was to receive the wisdom of my book. And now you've taken your journey to the next level of mentorship with me. And so, but that all stimulated, like, where did that come from? That came from a desire to receive and to learn. And so a lot of times, and I still to this day, I wake up every day and the first action that I do is I study with an intense desire every single morning. I mean, as soon as I wake up, I get water in my system, and then I have a cup of coffee, and then I crack open books. And I study for the first hour of my day, every single day. I study, and then I write, and then I go about my other rituals and practices every single day. But, I've always cultivated an intense desire to learn. And it's so important for the entrepreneurs out there to have that intense desire to learn.
Man, it's incredible. Well, I tell you one thing I appreciate about a lot of things, obviously, but I used to work for a company that once a quarter, we'd always do a comparable market analysis. And so it was always studying the competition. And you talk a lot about our competitiveness should not be challenged toward our competition, but rather be challenged toward us. And I speak to that, if you would, Ryan, and what that means and why it's so important.
Well, so I've done this personality test called Strength Finders, and it stack ranks your strengths 1 through 34. My number one strength was competitiveness. My number one weakness is also competitiveness, because the way the Strength Finders works is your strengths are also your weaknesses, right? So you're talking to a person who has made every competitive mistake in the history of competition. I have failed so many times. So I come from a level of wisdom on this subject. You don't want to, if all you do is compete to become a better version of yourself each and every single day, and you compete against yourself, you have a negative version of you and you have a positive version of you. And every day you have to wake up and you have to you have to compete against the negative version of you. You gotta arm the positive version of you to go compete against the negative version of you. And that negative version of you is gonna, think, oh, there's a pandemic, there's no money in the economy. There's a lot of people that are going to make plenty of money in this economy. The negative version of you is going to react to the situation. The negative version of you is going to procrastinate. It's going to be lazy. It's going to come from a state of victimization. The negative version of you is going to think too much about the past. Is going to not forgive people. Is going to have envy, jealousy, greed. Like that's the negative version of you. And every day you got to wake up and compete against the negative version of you. And that positive version of you needs to be well equipped for that competition, because our culture, so tries to steer and create and craft that decisive, that negative version of you, right? Like the news is, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, like they're trying to create negativity in the system. They want you to hate the opponent, right? And so every day you wake up and you're being inundated with a level of negativity that is easy to be drawn into, because it's much easier to be drawn into negativity than it is to be drawn into positivity, because to be positive means you have to overcome negative, and that takes work. And so, yeah, the level of competition that I'm at today is I compete against the negative version of me. And that's the level of competition. Now, there was a time where I would see a competitor copy my product and I'd want to sue them. I'd see a competitor, steal from me and I would want to retaliate. Like I see a competitor, steal my employees and it would make me mad. And I would then want to, beat their marketing plan, or, there's all kinds of things that I used to do that because people would stimulate my competitiveness, and it would put me in a state where I was not in the balcony of my competitiveness, meaning being where I'm great in my strength of competitiveness. I was in the basement of my competitiveness. And so that's my lesson on competition.
Well, I tell you what, and one thing you spoke clearly about a few minutes ago was about your morning ritual, getting up, water, coffee, reading. And I find that to be impactful in my life. Ever since I've been doing this for several years now, it has helped to facilitate putting me in that better state versus waking up, clicking on the news, going on social media, getting the world, viewpoint, whatever it may be in your head, and get yourself right, get centered for that day. So,
I take the first 3 hours of my day, no matter what, they're mine. Those are my 3 hours. Now I get up super early to have those 3 hours. So, we start here at 8 a.m. I'm in a house that we used to do events at. So it's it's a hostel, so to speak. So I've got multiple people that live here. They're all working toward the Altar Call project. We start here at 8 a.m. But I'm up at 5 or even earlier, making sure that I have my 3 hours to myself for my studies, my meditation, my spiritual work, my reflection. I do stretching during that period of time. And then I make sure that I'm drinking a lot of water to start my day. And I'm down to 2 cups of coffee a day. Sometimes I cheat and have 3, but I used to be like 8 or 9 cups of coffee a day. So, so that's my morning ritual. And then, and that sets my stage. But what I've found is if I learn and I teach, then all day long, all I have to do is share what I've learned and taught. So like I show up to every meeting, every encounter with a different spirit, because I've learned and I've downloaded that learning and digested that learning. And now I just have to show up to meetings with a new spirit of teaching.
Well, I tell you, you're speaking to the importance of learning, continue to educate yourself. And there's a story that I love that you share, that you went to a 2-day seminar, you spent $5,000 for it, but you only went 1 day because you had the capacity of learning one idea, and you took that one idea, went home and thought about it. And you went back to that same conference, spent another $5,000 just for the second day. Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't speak to the importance of learning, I don't know what is. I don't know anyone in this world, Ryan, that would do that. Yeah. Maybe other than you, I guess, because I was like, man, I would think I need to stay to 2 days, but you're like, okay, I got to grasp this concept, internalize it, and then I'll come back later.
Yeah, I don't want to be overloaded with information, because you have to be able to grasp the concept and then take action on the concept. And the best way to actually learn something is to teach it. And so, I restrict the amount of information, because there are a lot of people out there that get into information overload. They just want to learn. They're on YouTube all day long, and they don't retain it. In order to retain, you have to, teach it. You retain 90% of what you teach. You only retain about 30% of what you read, and you only retain a lesser amount about what you hear, for example. So you have to teach it in order to truly learn the lesson. So my method is I learn the lesson, I receive the lesson, I attempt to conceptualize the lesson, I write about the lesson, I teach the lesson. And it might take a few days or a few weeks to really change as a result of the lesson learned. So, I was learning about intention, for example, recently, and I was thinking to myself about every action I took, what was the true intention behind it? Was it my intention to receive, or was it my intention to give in that action? And so, it takes a while to learn that lesson, because you then have to become aware of every action that you're doing throughout your entire day, and then questioning your intention. And then you have to modify your actions, and then you have to modify your life. And so it takes some time to truly learn a lesson of that depth. And whether you're learning about gratitude, like at a level 1, or you're learning about intention, which is a higher level of learning, doesn't matter. It takes time to really learn the lesson. So I try not to learn too much. I just want to learn what I need to take the next step in my journey.
That leads me to the next question, Ryan, talking about Altar Call. I mean, you're the founder of Altar Call. It's a moment when you're called to change. You're the founder of that now. So it's I don't know if it's a movement. It's a way of life that you're instructing people, teaching people. But prior to that, you took a 2-year sabbatical. I mean, I would think you went 100 days without speaking to anyone. You got down to ground zero. You did that to recalibrate your entire existence. Talk to us about the importance of medication and not feeding on the toxic information that is out there.
Yeah. Well, I had worked really, really hard to achieve some pretty cool things. But yet those achievements that I would achieve would constantly, I would get to a level of success, and then I would ask myself, was it really worth it? I look at what I sacrificed to get there. I looked at being burnt out, or, how much time I had to take away from my son, or how much travel I had to do. I looked at the lifestyle I was living, and then for a while there, I would just pick up a new goal and then go charge that goal. And then I'd feel empty upon achieving it. I felt like I accomplished it for no good reason whatsoever. And although I had a bunch of trophies stack up and a bunch of awards, and I did well financially, I was really empty. And a thing happened in my life. My mother fell down a flight of stairs, and she was in a coma for 2 years. And so I'd have to go visit her in her coma on her deathbed. And then I'd have to go, change my state, go on stage, travel around the world, sell books, sell out events, things like that. And, I was always really questioning, like, am I doing the right thing? And then when my mother, she miraculously woke up, and then for a few years, she was in a state of severe handicap. She was severely handicapped. And I would be able to spend time with her and visit her. And I would still have this dilemma. Like, every time I wasn't with her, I was working, I was taking away from something. And so, I got to a point as she was ending her life that I was really questioning everything that I'd done, questioning the money that I'd made, questioning the fame that I had sought, or the recognition that I had sought. And I decided that upon her elevation, I was going to just stop doing everything, stop all relationships, stop speaking, and really try to get to the roots of some things that I felt were spiritually within me. And so I spent 2 years doing that, and rethinking every thought that I could think of, healing every wound. I had a very traumatic upbringing, and so I really sought to heal those things. And and as a result of the work that I did over that 2-year period of time, I came up with some new principles and some new teachings and some new ways of being that have given me an endless amount of joy and fulfillment, and a real just deep desire to serve, and a connection spiritually, and a connection with my relationships unlike anything I've ever experienced. So I know that 2-year period of time that it took for me to really re-engineer my thinking and reprogram myself and re-engineer my body. I had injuries, I had old sports injuries, I had all kinds of things that I had neglected in my body and in my mind in the pursuit of goals and in the pursuit of money and ambition and materialism, that I went and rethought, and I re-engineered myself over that 2-year period of time. And so it's been a blessing, and Altar Call emerged as a result of that work that I did. And now I teach people those principles that I learned during that 2-year period. I teach people the methods and the modalities. I teach people meditation. And in fact, I teach people freely. I teach a meditation class every single day at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And, I just love to teach people the things that I've learned, because I was put in position to learn these things for a reason. I knew that. And as I learned them and applied the lessons and taught the lessons, I saw lives all around me change. So now it's my goal to change as many lives as I humanly can by imparting the lessons that I've learned through my experience.
Well, I tell you what, you're incredibly balanced. I love about it, because in order to be successful in sales, you know this way better than I do, you have to have some sort of will to win, a drive, right? But it's equally important to have the right fuel in the tank, and you speak on that. I mean, what are some practical steps that people can take to make sure they are balanced?
Yeah. Well, so I don't know. I'm more elastic than I'm balanced, right? Like when I'm out of balance, I can find my strength and get back in balance, right? When the wind of change blows at us and we're constantly moving in and out of a balance, the goal is to build a strength and a centeredness and a groundedness and an equilibrium. So that way, no matter what hits you, you can receive the negative energy and discharge it into something positive. So I wouldn't say that I'm balanced because, the world is spinning very fast.
Yeah.
But I would tell you I'm much more elastic. And, there's a lot of work that I've done on this particular subject, and I guess the best lesson that I could share with people is you have to just be willing to take the negative in life and then discharge it into something positive, right? And so, my mindset right now is that I seek to know what the sources of fuel are. So where before, based on your question, you asked like, how do I find the right energy, or how am I able to, do the work that I've been able to do in a sales capacity or whatever it is. And you have to just be very present to the fuel that you receive. I used to receive a lot of my fuel sources from negativity or from ego or a desire to prove everybody wrong or a desire to win. You asked about the will to win, right? Yeah. So it's like, I want to win because I want to prove that I can win, that I can, if somebody would tell me I can't do something, that's all I needed to know to prove to them that I could do it, right? So those were negative fuel sources. So you have to just be very conscious of your fuel sources. There's much better fuel sources than anger, than ego. And I still have a big will to win, but it's based on a fuel source of giving and of sharing. And it's based on, the compensation I receive is seeing the light on a person's, eyes when they shift and when they have a transformation, and seeing, them be better parents and better leaders, and seeing, these people like have a new awareness to them that they didn't have before. And that's the greatest gift that I can receive, right? So my desire to win is because I have a desire to utilize and to share as much light that I have from within me to as many people as I possibly can.
Man, that's incredible, incredible. Well, hey, Ron, I'll leave you with this. This is kind of cliche, and I know it's a classic thing. What would you do when you're way back when? But if you were starting a business today with no resources, where would you begin? How could you speak to the entrepreneur out there that says, hey, I want to do it, but God, man, I don't have anybody around me. I don't have no money. What would you say to that person?
You don't really need resources, to start a business. Sell whatever you have, cancel your TV subscription, cancel your Netflix, cancel drinking Starbucks or whatever, whatever you have. And you only need about $1,000 to start a business these days. So it doesn't require a ton of investment. So, you could start something very simple. And the tools these days, all the SaaS platforms, the ability to manage your business is easier than ever. So you just have to start with who you want to serve and who are you committed to serving. And then get to why you want to serve those people. Like, why do I want to show up and serve these human beings? And then you can get to the how. So I would just start with the simplest, start with the very simplest tools, and there are many of them available. Utilize those tools and then start serving customers. Go add 1 customer, 2 customer, 3 customer, 4 customer. Just start saying, I have something to do, and I'm going to start doing that. And I'm going to have no shame and letting the world know on social media and otherwise that I now am serving the world in this capacity. I'm going to call my friends, call my family, and sign up a few customers. And then just start there. You don't need to start, don't overwhelm yourself with the idea that you have to create some big business. Start small and start with day one. What customers am I here to serve, right? Why am I here to serve them? And then how am I going to serve them? And just work on those series of questions every single day until you have a whole lot of customers that you're serving.
Ooh, love it, my brother. Love it. Ryan, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you being here today. It's a wealth of information. I know we just barely scratched the surface, but in honor of your time and what you're doing, I just so appreciate you being on today. And you guys reach out to Ryan. Is it still the website ryanblair.com? I got that rolling on the screen. Is that still okay?
Yeah, you can go to ryanblair.com, but the best way to reach me is on social media, as it is for pretty much everyone these days. My Instagram is real Ryan Blair, and my Facebook is ryanblair.fans. So if you go to Facebook /ryanblair.fans, you can find me there. On Instagram, it's @realryanblair. And if you want to DM me and send me a message, I engage with everybody who messages me. So I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to make a connection with you.
Awesome, Ryan. Hey, bro, I'll talk to you tomorrow, man. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I look forward to mentoring you, Matt. It's going to be awesome.
Hey, it's my honor. I tell you, it's a great honor, you guys. If you can hook up with Ryan Blair, and it's just unbelievable. The book, information, his accessibility. Can you believe me? I'm a small town kind of a entrepreneur for the last 2.5, 3 years, and Ryan Blair is coming on my show. What does that tell you? That should tell you everything about who this brother is. Ryan, bless you. Have a good day, my brother. I'll talk to you tomorrow.